Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm getting the truck prepped for a rooftop tent. Got a line on a iKamper Mini 3.0 from Facebook Marketplace that's kind of like half the cost, and so gonna go check that out today. But this video is really going to be focused on getting this bed rack ready for that rooftop tent. So stay tuned. So the bed rack I have is the Nismo High Overland bed rack. It came with 1, 2, and then over on the other side, 3, 4 of these crossbars. And from the pictures online, I just assumed that these would go across the sides, and so that's what I went with. And I really like this setup because that will allow me to put a bunch of things on the side, like my Max Tracks or any gas cans, water. But for the rooftop tent I went and got this rack measured, and it will not fit an iKamper 3.0 Mini unless these crossbars, a couple of them go across the top. I don't want to change this up. I like having these two on the side. So fortunately, I reached out to Nismo and kind of explained the whole situation, and they sent me for free 2 of these crossbars. And so I've got 2 crossbars that I need to install across the top, and that will help move forward a little bit the progress of getting this ready for my iKamper. Okay, so here are those cross beams that I got sent from Nismo. These were a part of their like R&D, and they weren't needing them anymore, just had them sitting around, and so just reached out. They were very helpful, just wanted me to give them a shout out on this review. I've got some spare hardware from this whole rack, and then I found on Amazon some pretty close or similar hardware, and so I've got some extras to be able to, you know, as these break, as they age, the oxidization wears off, I can replace them. So I'm just gonna try to do this by myself and put these up in the rack. Okay, so I've got the 2 crossbars up. I just need to tighten these down, and then I'll go into the next process of how I'm actually going to anchor this rooftop tent to the actual rack. All right, so this is just kind of the first step of getting this bed rack ready. So the way the tent is oriented is here's the back and here's the front, and then the roof kind of clamshell opens like that with the hinge that way, and then it opens up and you climb a ladder over here. The way it attaches to any rack is there are 2 clamps on these railings underneath the tent that clamp down like this, and so they can't clamp over these because they need to run front to back and clamp over. So the obvious choices would be here on the back rail and clamp here on the front rail. Unfortunately, I got these measured at the iKamper facility, and the Overland bed rack crossbars here are too wide. So after reaching out in some of the forums and on YouTube, somebody had a great idea of using a product from Grainger to basically run another set of tracks on top of these that are kind of low profile, and then the tent can attach to those. So I'll show you what those look like and how they'll attach. All right, here is the 80-20. They're kind of like they're almost like a framing, for like framing up office space or framing up a warehouse. You could use these maybe as studs and attach this, make a modular system. I think they can be used for a lot of things. Here I'm going to use them as the cross pieces, so the iKamper will clamp down on these. And so just using the hardware that Grainger allows you to choose, it comes with this bolt, and then it comes with this kind of like a slip nut. And so the way this works is you've got the end piece, and there's all these different areas to bolt down to. If this is going to be the top of the tent, this will be the top that the tent attached to. This will be the bottom that attaches to the Overland bed rack. We would slide this piece, this nut, in this opening, and then kind of push it down to where we need it to go, and then we would screw in this bolt, and it's going to tighten down inside that channel, and then we can just do that a number of times to where it'll be really secure to the bed rack. So I'm hoping this system works. So let's go try it out. Okay, so looking at the top of the bed rack, I want to lay these. I'm going to get the exact measurement out, but I'm sure it's going to fall in line with here, and then maybe the second row of holes there. So when it's laying across, I'd like for there to be a screw here, 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 and here. So there'll be 4 contact points on this cross beam and the 70/20 or the 80/20 truss. And so each bar will, or each truss will have 1, 2, 3, 4, so 8 total contact points across this. And again, I'll get out the exact measurements of which ones I need to bolt into. Okay, based on the spacing spec sheet from iKamper, I'm going to install a rail here and then install a rail towards the front. That front one is just right over the axle, so I like it being a little bit forward. And I'm just trying not to put too much of the weight towards the center of these, because all these crossbars here are just connected by bolts there, 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 and here. So I just feel like this is going to be where the most load carrying areas are, and just not there in the middle. And so the way I'm going to do this is use kind of a screwdriver to line up these sliding nuts, and just kind of line them up right here, and then fold this down, and then I can bolt those in. And so I just need to work on that over here. I don't really know why. I mean, these are offset, and I don't have any reason to believe that flipping these around actually does a difference, but this is just the way I have it. Okay, I initially had all these in, but the bolt would go all the way through and it still wasn't secured, so I went and got some washers here that should make this work perfectly. Oh yeah, the washer does great there. Okay, these crossbars are tightened down. I ended up needing 2 washers on each of those bolts just to make it nice and snug. And I also didn't go all the way on the end. I went with my original plan of doing the second from the back and then second from the front. I did that because the clamps that clamp onto this, I didn't think were going to fit in between that small gap between those holes and the edge there. And then also, I talked about the wheelbase. If you look at that line of holes there, lines up nicely right over the axle, and so should have a nice balance of weight across the bed. All right, the last thing before we go get this tent to actually install is I've got some caps that came from Grainger. For these, they're just very, I mean, just for aesthetic purposes, just a cap with some kind of like a punch rivet here, just to cover those ends up. And that's what the rails look like with those end caps. Okay, so I was able to go into Portland last night and pick up the iKamper 3.0 Mini. Walked into this guy's garage, met him on Facebook Marketplace, and the garage was immaculate. Like, everything was in storage containers and everything was marked, and just not a crumb or a, you know, piece of dust on that garage floor. So when I saw this sitting there, I just knew it was well taken care of. We opened it up. I mean, this thing looks brand new. He says he's only used it 15, 20 times. He's like 75 years old, great guy. Again, just really took care of this, had all the instruction manuals and all the pieces you needed in a big Ziploc bag with the keys, and made a great deal. And so I'm just really happy about this. What I really like is the spacing on the cross brackets. And so if you look, you can see on the left side, there's just a little bit of a gap where this clamp is on the left side, just about an inch off the Nismo bracket. But then on the right side, you can see it's almost butted right up against. So I've actually got to center this a little bit more, but I would say maybe, you know, it's a 1/2 inch off center. But I really like where these crossbars are on the Nismo rack. So it just really helps center this tent when you're, you know, lifting this heavy thing up, trying to make it just so. But I couldn't really put those Nismo cross brackets anywhere else without it interfering with the actual clamps. I've ridden probably 200 miles with this thing now over the past day in, you know, 65, 70 mile an hour speed limits, and I mean it drives like a dream. I don't even feel it on top. I don't hear a lot of wind resistance, but most importantly, this is secure. I mean, I was a little worried with, you know, just the few amount of screws we installed to get this up there, but it looks like the load capacity of the rack is great, and then also these 80/20, you know, trusses I got from Grainger are working out just great. So I'm going to do a full review on the iKamper tent later, but just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like installed on the Nismo Overland high bed rack. Something else I was a little worried about was just, you know, we've got the bed rack, and then we've got those trusses, and then there's rails underneath the iKamper tent, and I was just afraid it was going to feel like kind of like Lincoln logs stacked up, and it make for a high profile of the tent. But I'm just really happy with, you know, where it sets. It's not too high. I thought it would set much higher based off of pictures I'd seen, but I think along with that Nismo roof rack, it just makes for a nice smooth medium profile height of the tent back there. And doesn't stick out like a sore thumb too much. And so again, just really pleased with